Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's good to have you here. It is Thursday, October 24th. I took yesterday off just to rest a little bit after testimony was over. So we're going to recap day 4. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, and hit that bell icon if you want notifications of when I post new content. There were 3 deputies on the stand back to back who responded to domestic violence incidents. They told about markings on Sarah. Also, an elderly neighbor testified about also seeing marks on Sarah. If Sarah was out walking her dogs, the witness would be on her porch and they would interact. The next witness was Michael Brandon. He is a forensic psychologist, and he talked about Battered Spouse Syndrome. It's a traumatic disorder. He compared it to PTSD. A classic response of that is a reaction that's developed to the abuser. The victim makes a determination that they can't effectively escape from the abuse. It's a thinking strategy, and they develop coping skills to protect themselves. It's a psychological change that happens with how they cope and strategize in order to stay safe. Abuse can be physical, psychological, sexual, or it can be threats over a period of time. Abuse has to be present, and there also has to be coercive control. Examples of that are keeping social interactions close, controlling money, controlling social media, but that's still not enough. They have to have the victim feel they can't escape from that. They may threaten the person or people that the person loves. Alcohol does appear frequently in these situations. The abuser may only be abusive when alcohol is at play, or if it's there before the alcohol is introduced, it gets worse. For the abused, it could be a coping mechanism. The abused frequently defend their abuser and excuse behaviors. They find reasons to explain why the abuse is happening. They may see something as a threat that other people may not. Now, this guy has not done any assessments on Sarah, never met with her. He goes on to say the fear developed by the abuse may exist in tandem with other issues like alcoholism, and that increases the control the abuser has. When doing these evaluations, it's not good enough just to talk to the person. It's better to talk to family, neighbors. That helps the evaluator get more evidence to understand the situation better. He talks about Stockholm Syndrome, where the abused adapts to the situation, and gives Patty Hearst as an example. You take on the traits of your abuser and you think the situation is okay. When you've been traumatized, your perception of danger changes, and you may always have a foreboding sense of danger. On Cross, the state asks if a couple could be in a relationship for 3.5 years with violence and still believe it's not a traumatic situation. The witness says people don't always act the same way, and there's a lot of variables there. They ask about the credibility issues of somebody who is accused of a crime, and also their explanation of past events when alcohol is at play. Does that affect the evaluation? The witness says alcohol abuse impairs the person's life, and with that may come deceitfulness, aggression, and the evaluator has to take all of that into account. They move into Narcissistic Personality Disorder. Can you say a person who is giving a history that has traits of Narcissistic Personality Disorder, is that something that the evaluator should take into consideration when determining credibility? The witness says, yes, certain traits can lead to deception, and that's why it's important to hear from other people to get a better idea. The next witness is back on the stand, Janella Wadden. She's with Digital Forensics, and they play a video of George. He's got a bat. He says to the camera, "You're going to help me take this crap out." In the video, you see him point the bat at her, and then he takes the bat to the TV. However, a couple of people on Twitter pointed out she's in very close proximity, holding the camera steady, not cowering, not far away. And the last witness of the day was Dr. Julie Harper. She's a licensed psychologist. She reviewed Sarah's history from childhood and also did an assessment on her. She reviewed prior mental health records, the interrogation video, previous arrests. She does think that Sarah has some narcissistic traits, but she did not diagnose her with narcissistic personality disorder. Some of the traits she did exhibit was reiterating about her abilities, like being a straight A student. She thinks Sarah has self-confidence issues, and this is a coping mechanism. People with low self-esteem typically need more outside admiration. She didn't diagnose Sarah with any kind of a personality disorder. She diagnosed her with PTSD and an anxiety disorder. She said she gave tests to see if Sarah was faking her symptoms, and the test showed that Sarah was not malingering. She was consistent with someone having PTSD. The trauma comes from intimate partner violence, and she had a change in function due to that. At the time of the incident, she says that Sarah had depression and alcohol abuse syndrome. She goes through all the symptoms of both of those. Alcoholism could be a trait of the diagnosis, like a coping mechanism. She does think Sarah was suffering from battered spouse syndrome at the time of the incident. And they show the witness the photos of Sarah's injuries, and she confirms that that was intimate partner violence. Mr. J did a great job on cross with this. He points out she had 9 visits with Sarah over 8 days. Some of those visits were morning and afternoon. If somebody is just running down their partner, like telling them things that hurt their feelings, that could be part of a verbally abusive relationship. She says yes. He asks, when you give someone something but still claim it's yours, is that a form of exertion of control? She says she doesn't think it's strong evidence of that. When asked if one partner destroys another's belongings, is that control? Yes. Is using the legal process against your partner controlling? Such as, if you don't do X, Y, or Z, I'm going to get you arrested. She says yes. Remember, we talked the day before about how Sarah would say if he didn't call her back, she was going to call the police. I think that's where he was going with that. He moves on to say that Sarah described her first date with George, and they had just met that night at a bar. They're not financially intertwined. They didn't live together. First day they met, she says he smashed her phone, he hit her, and she had to crouch in a fetal position on the porch for an extended time. She was bruised up. After that, there was a second date, despite not having anything commingled, and the witness says yes. He asked how many years of her adult life did she work. The witness said Sarah did not give a specific number of years, but the state points out at the time of the incident, Sarah was in her 40s. So from 18 to 40, did her work history end up being 24 years? She didn't know. State points out Sarah had not been working for some time because she was living off the lump sum settlement from her divorce, $1,000 a month in alimony and $100 a month in child support. And asked, was George the one working? Yes. She said violence occurred in front of her child and he went to report it at the school. Did you review any of the Division of Children and Family records? She did not. He asked if Sarah said she was too afraid at times for her son to come over, and the witness says yes. Now, he points out she swore on her son in a police interview that she was telling the truth, and the witness says yes. Now, if you guys remember, she admitted on the stand that she lied in her police interview. I think he's just pointing out that she literally swore on her son, even though she knew she was lying. He points out sometimes Sarah would go to the hospital but leave before being treated, and during these times, she had alcohol in her system. Sarah had depression, and he says alcohol can make that worse. In January of 2018, she came to the ER with depression symptoms and was looking for a pastor. She was very drunk at the time. The witness says Sarah talked about that incident and said it was because her ex-husband was out of town and she had lost her job. But there was no mention about any problems with George during that visit. The state talks about when she said she was drugged down the stairs the night before the suitcase incident, and then she viewed the photos of Sarah after the incident. When asked if there was any indication of injuries on Sarah, The witness said she did not see inside her scalp, but no injury she saw in those photos. She agrees alcohol distorts memory as well. State goes on to talk about narcissistic personality disorder and the traits of that. You need 5 of these traits to diagnose her. Just a reminder, the witness did not diagnose. So he goes through what she said yes to between her report and her depositions. And I think he's trying to catch here. Sarah had 5. The witness said Sarah has a sense of self-importance. That's 1. Exaggerates achievements, preoccupied with unlimited success. The witness said no on the stand, but the state points out that she gave a deposition where she said yes. That would be 2. Often envious of others or thinks others are envious of them. Arrogant attitude. Yes, that's 3. Sense of entitlement. Yes, that's 4. A lack of empathy. She says that might be the case, but it's not intentional. That would be your 5 to diagnose Sarah with narcissistic personality disorder. But according to the witness, Sarah only had 3 of the 5. She did not look at the text messages from the phone extraction from Sarah's phone. She did not review body cam footage that was not provided to her. She did not interview Sarah's ex-husband or their son. She also didn't review any records from the jail. On the day of the incident, Sarah told her they had nothing to do, so they did chores and then they could rest. Sarah told the witness that they started drinking about 4 p.m. But the state points out, you saw crime scene photos that included receipts from Publix at 12:17 p.m. Did you question her about the inconsistency of the times? No. She did take into consideration the alcohol consumption when weighing what Sarah told her about the day of the incident. However, Sarah did not describe herself to the witness as being intoxicated. They move on to George being zipped in the suitcase, and George was getting mad about being zipped in the suitcase. And that made her mad? The witness says yes. The witness said Sarah told her something that George said that made her mad. But when the state asked if she asked Sarah to elaborate, the witness said no. She said, as a trained clinician, you let the traumatized person describe their experience. You had 9 visits with her. You didn't follow up or ask her what it was that George said that made her mad? No. Did you ask why she didn't let him out after 2 minutes? And she said yes. Sarah thought he could get himself out. Did you ask why she didn't let him out after 2 minutes? The witness says yes, she thought he could get himself out. The state asked, have you looked at the still photo and the timestamps? And she said yes. And the state points out 20 minutes is 10 times as long as 2 minutes. And the witness agrees. Sarah said she was helpful to police. The witness says yes, in the sense that she was having the conversation without lawyers. She would consider that helpful. And then he asked her, do you consider lying to the police helpful? No. Did you see the autopsy reports? And did you question her when she said she only poked him with the bat? She said no. Sarah gestured how she poked the suitcase. And then you obviously did not get to interview George about that night. No. On a redirect, it was really quick. Abusers use power and control. Is threatening their dogs an example? Yes. Taking car keys, taking a phone, a debit card, destroying a TV, putting holes in the wall, not helping pay the rent. She said yes to all that. Not helping pay the rent could be coercive control, and violating a no contact order is a use of power and control. And that was it. Appreciate you guys. Hope you have a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you soon.